All right, so how much risk should you allow into your life? How much effort and time is it worth to put into making everything as secure and as safe as possible? Um, and I don't know that there are very simple answer to this. Well, there might be, but let's explore a few different scenarios. So there are areas, many different areas of life where things could harm us. So whether it would be emotionally, physically, spiritually, there are many potential risks in life. That's just the way things are set up. And once we get to heaven, and then my understanding is that those risks are removed. But for while we're here on earth, we do have those risks to contend with. Now, how much energy, how much time should you devote to trying to get rid of risk in your life? So let's use money just because it's an easy example to work with. So um, if you could argue that, well, you want to be as secure as possible because you want your money to be as safe as possible because losing it, that's what would really cause you financial harm. Okay, well, if that's the case, what's your approach going to be? It's like, well, okay, I'm only going to invest in treasury bills. But let's say the treasury bills are, let's say, I mean, right now they're, I don't know, what are they, 5% right now? But if the real rate of inflation, which some people calculate to be closer to 7%, if they're not keeping up with the real rate of inflation, or the real cost of money, or the real cost of goods, and then in theory you could be losing several percent by investing in this, so to quote unquote, safe investment. Now, you could also say, well, I want to be, I don't know if I trust the government to pay me back my money, so I'm going to just hoard cash. Okay, but then you're taking even a bigger hit on inflation. So there's always I think there's always a risk reward quotient. I say there's always. There's many times there's a risk reward quotient around trying to make something safe and secure. For instance, in driving, driving is risky, and people do get killed driving. So, what are your options? Well, first of all, you can never drive anywhere. But then, you run the risk of missing out on other things in life that you really want to enjoy, right? So, or you could say, well, I'm always going to only drive 30 miles per hour. Well, then you might have the risk of being rear-ended by someone driving 75 miles per hour. So it's really impossible to eliminate all risk, particularly if there are other priorities in your life besides eliminating that one risk. So if you only have a priority to eliminate only the one risk, for instance, let's say financial risk, okay, I dedicate everything in my life to eliminating that risk. So I work really hard, I save, I have a diversified portfolio, I don't marry, I don't have kids because I want to maximize my financial return on my life, if you will, which, by the way, that may not even actually help. but let's, I live a very sparse lifestyle. I don't have any friends because I don't want to spend money and time going out with them. Everything, I'm spiritually destitute because my whole life revolves around money and mammon. And if that were the way that you chose to live, I think it's very likely that you could get to a place where you were financially secure, but at what cost, right? So, at the cost of you could say introducing tremendous risk into other areas of your life. So how do we, what's the best approach? Do we use a kind of that quotient of risk to reward and just kind of try to figure out what makes sense? And I think that it really is what most people do. I do advocate I think that it's important to know the things that are firm and are secure, the truths of God, and, well, God himself. That is the firm thing. That is the secure person that we can anchor to. And I believe that as we, particularly from an emotional, spiritual standpoint, as you anchor into that, the trustworthiness of God, the firmness, the security that comes from that, I think it can reduce the need for certainty, security, and safety in the rest of your life. Now, I'm not advocating for recklessness and stupidity, okay? Like, wear your seatbelt, right? Pretty low cost to wearing a seatbelt. So, where you can make your life more secure with a relatively low cost, generally, I would advocate for that. I think that's generally smart. But I do not advocate for the maximum safety and security in all areas of life at whatever cost, because those costs sometimes are simply too high. And it's much better, I think, to be anchored, to be secure in God Himself, and then to trust Him for a lot of the other uncertainties. And it's not that there will not be unpleasant things that will happen, even as you trust God, but there is a certainty that goes with that, which is if you love God, that all things work together for your good. So that's an example of how you can take the certainty that God offers, can transform the uncertainty that's out there in the world, and make so that you personally can live with a great deal of certainty, a great deal of confidence, because of who you trust.